Liked machines more than people. Machines were honest. They did not lie or pretend. When a machine was broken, it showed you exactly where the problem was. People were not like that. People hid their broken parts and pretended everything was fine. That was why lived alone in the Nevada desert, surrounded by old spacecraft and broken equipment. His salvage yard was full of things other people had thrown away. Dead satellites, crashed shuttles, parts from space stations that nobody wanted anymore. To most people, it was all junk. It was treasure. He had been an aerospace engineer once. He had worked for one of the big companies that built ships for the government. But he got tired of the politics and the meetings and the people who knew nothing about machines telling him how to do his job. So he quit. He bought 50 acres of desert and started collecting broken things. That was 10 years ago. Now he was 42 years old, and he had not had a real conversation with another human in 3 months. He liked it that way. The night everything changed started like any other night. Was in his workshop trying to fix an old navigation computer from a 2060s cargo ship. The radio played old music. A fan moved hot air around the room. Outside, the desert was dark and quiet. Then the sky caught fire. Heard it first, a sound like thunder but wrong, too long, too loud. He walked outside and looked up. A ball of fire was falling from the sky, leaving a trail of smoke behind it. It was not a meteor. Meteors did not change direction. This thing was trying to slow down. It was trying to land. It did not land well. The impact shook the ground under his feet. A cloud of dust and fire rose from the desert about half a mile away. Stood there for a moment thinking. He should call someone, the government, the military, someone official. But then he thought about all the paperwork, all the questions, all the people who would come and take over his quiet life. He got in his truck and drove toward the crash site instead. The crater was bigger than he expected. At the bottom was a ship unlike anything had ever seen. It was beautiful in a strange way. The hull was smooth and curved, almost like it had been grown instead of built. The metal had a color that shifted between blue and purple when he looked at it from different angles, but it was damaged badly. Burn marks covered one side. Holes had been punched through the hull in several places. This ship had been in a fight and it had lost. Climbed down into the crater carefully. The ship was still making sounds, clicking and humming. Somewhere inside, systems were still trying to work. He walked around it, looking for a way in. He found a section of hull that had been torn open by the crash. He climbed inside. The interior was dark, but not completely. Soft lights glowed along the walls, some of them flickering. The air smelled strange. Not bad, just different, like flowers and metal mixed together. Moved slowly, stepping over broken equipment and fallen panels. He found her in what he guessed was the cockpit. She was humanoid. That was the first thing he noticed. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, but she was definitely not human. Her skin was violet like a sunset. Her hair was silver and seemed to float slightly, even though there was no wind. She was wearing some kind of armor that looked like it had been damaged in the same fight that damaged the ship. She was unconscious or dead, could not tell. He knelt down beside her and checked for a pulse. He did not know where to check on an alien, so he tried the neck like he would with a human. He felt something. A heartbeat maybe. Faster than a human heartbeat, but steady. She was alive. Her eyes opened. Had just enough time to think that her eyes looked like stars before she moved. Faster than he could react, she grabbed him and threw him against the wall. A weapon appeared in her hand from somewhere. She pointed it at his face. She spoke. The words were not English, not any language he knew, but somehow he understood them. It was like they appeared directly in his mind. "Human, you will repair my equipment, immediately." It was not a question. It was not a request. It was a command. She spoke like someone who had never been told no in her entire life. Had been held at gunpoint before. It happened sometimes in the salvage business. He had learned that panicking never helped, so he did not panic. He looked at the alien woman with the gun and thought about his options. "Put the gun down," he said. She stared at him. Her starlight eyes were wide with confusion. "You do not give orders to me," she said. "I am princess of the Ascendant Dominion. I am royalty of 1,000 worlds. You are a primitive creature on a primitive planet. You will do as I command." Shrugged, "Maybe, but I don't fix things for people who point weapons at me. That's my rule. You want my help, you put that down. Otherwise, you can find someone else to repair your equipment." She did not move. The gun stayed pointed at his face. "You would die rather than obey." "I've had worse days." For a long moment, nothing happened. They stared at each other, the princess from 1,000 worlds and the mechanic from the Nevada desert. Her finger was on the trigger. One small movement and would be dead. Then she laughed. It was a small sound, almost surprised, like she had not expected to laugh. "You are either very brave or very stupid," she said. "Probably both," admitted. She lowered the weapon. Something in her expression changed. Not friendly exactly, but less hostile, more curious. "Very well, human, I will not point weapons at you." She tried to stand and immediately fell, caught her before she hit the ground. Up close, he could see how badly she was hurt. Burns on her arms, a deep cut on her side. She was running on willpower and nothing else. "You need medical attention," he said. "I need my ship repaired," she insisted. "There are people hunting me. If they find me here, they will kill me. And they will kill you for helping me. I need to leave this planet." Looked at the alien princess in his arms. He looked at the ruined ship around him. He thought about his quiet life and his peaceful salvage yard and how much trouble this was going to cause. "All right," he said. "Let's get you to my workshop. I'll see what I can do." He did not know it then, but his life would never be quiet again. The princess did not like workshop. She looked at the piles of old equipment, the dirty tools, the oil stains on the floor, and her face showed clear disgust. She was used to palaces. She was used to clean white rooms and servants who bowed when she walked past. This place was the opposite of everything she knew. "This is where you work?" she asked. "This is where I live," corrected. He helped her sit down on an old couch he had rescued from a crashed passenger shuttle. "Stay here. Don't touch anything. I'm going to get your ship." It took him most of the night to drag the alien ship to his salvage yard. He used his biggest truck and a lot of cable. The ship was heavy, but not as heavy as he expected. Whatever metal it was made from was strong but light. By sunrise, the ship was sitting in his yard, looking very out of place among the rusted human equipment. Called it the Starlight Throne. The princess told him that was its name, though she said it in her own language first. It was a royal courier vessel, she explained, fast and well-armed. Or it had been well-armed before someone tried to kill her. "Who attacked you?" asked while he examined the damage. "Lord Oran," she said. The name was full of hatred. "A noble of my empire. He wants my family removed from power. He tried to kill me and make it look like an accident." "And your guards?" "Dead, all of them." Did not ask more questions. He focused on the ship instead. The damage was bad, really bad. The propulsion system was destroyed. The shields were offline. The communications array was in pieces. Any normal engineer would have looked at this ship and said it could not be fixed, not without a proper facility, not without the right parts, not without years of training in alien technology. Was not a normal engineer. He started with the communications array. The princess needed to contact her people, to tell them she was alive. The system used principles he did not understand at first. It did not send radio waves like human communications. It did something else. Something with quantum entanglement and dimensional folding. Words that meant nothing to. But the machine itself made sense. Machines always made sense to him. Every part had a purpose. Every wire went somewhere. Every system connected to other systems in logical ways. It did not matter if the machine was human or alien. The logic was the same. He spent 2 days studying the communications array. He took it apart piece by piece, learning how each component worked. Then he started looking for replacements. He did not have alien parts, but he had pieces from old Earth satellites. He had components from military equipment. He had things he had collected over 10 years of salvage work. On the 4th day, the communications array worked again. The princess stared at him like he had performed a miracle. "How did you do that?" she demanded. "That system uses technology your species has not discovered yet. Our engineers train for 20 years before they can work on quantum communication systems." Shrugged, "I just figured out what each part was supposed to do. Then I found parts that could do the same thing. It's not that complicated." "Not that complicated," she repeated. She sounded like she could not decide whether to be impressed or insulted. "We have had for 11,000 years. Your species has had it for barely 2 centuries, and you just figured out our technology in 4 days." "Machines are machines," said. "Doesn't matter who built them. They all want to work. You just have to listen to what they're telling you." The princess was quiet for a long time after that. Over the next 3 weeks continued his work. The propulsion system was harder than the communications array. It used principles that bent space itself, did not fully understand the theory, but he understood the machine. He could see where the power flowed, where the fields were generated, where the systems connected. He found a problem on the 8th day, a design flaw in the shield generator, a small inefficiency that probably wasted about 10% of the power. He mentioned it to the princess. "That is impossible," she said. "The best engineers in the Dominion designed that system. It has been used for 300 years. "Well, they got it wrong," said. He showed her the problem. He explained it in simple terms. Then he fixed it with a wrench and what he called percussive maintenance, which meant he hit it until it worked better. The princess watched him work every day. At first, she watched because she did not trust him. She wanted to make sure he was actually fixing her ship and not sabotaging it. But slowly, something changed. She started asking questions, not demanding answers, but actually asking. She wanted to understand how he thought, and found himself talking more than he had talked in years. He explained his process. He told her about the machines he had fixed, the problems he had solved. He told her about his life on Earth, about why he had left his job, about why he preferred machines to people. She told him things too, about her empire, the Ascendant Dominion, about the politics and the factions and the constant struggle for power, about how lonely it was to be a princess, surrounded by people who wanted to use her or kill her, about how she had never met anyone who treated her like a normal person instead of a title. "Your people," she said one evening, "they are young. You do not know your place in the universe yet. You have not learned to bow to those above you." "We bow to no one," said. "That's kind of our thing." She smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. "I think I understand now why your species frightens the older races. You do not know what is impossible, so you do impossible things without even realizing it." The ship was almost ready. The propulsion system was rebuilt. The shields were stronger than before. The communications array had contacted her allies in the Dominion. Help was coming. But had also been working on something else, something he had not told her about. He had studied her weapons, her shields, her defensive systems. He had found weaknesses, vulnerabilities, and he had built something to exploit them. He did not know if he would need it. He hoped he would not, but had not survived this long by being unprepared. And he had a feeling that the people hunting the princess were not going to give up easily. He was right. The ships came at sunset, 3 of them dropping through the clouds like metal predators. They were hunter-class vessels built for one purpose only, finding people and killing them. Each ship was twice the size of the Starlight Throne, armed with weapons that could destroy a city. Watched them descend from the roof of his workshop. The princess stood beside him, her face pale. "Oran," she said, "he found me." How many soldiers on each ship? 20, perhaps 30. They will be wearing powered armor. They will have weapons your people cannot match. She turned to face him. You must hide, find somewhere safe. They will kill anyone who helped me. It's my yard, said. What? This is my yard, my home. Nobody trashes my home. She stared at him. You cannot fight them. You are one human with primitive technology. They are trained killers with the best equipment in the Dominion. You will die. Smiled, it was not a nice smile. Maybe, but I'm going to make them work for it. He had been preparing for this. He had not told her everything he had been doing these past weeks. While fixing her ship, he had also been studying, learning, building. The first shuttle landed at the edge of the salvage yard. 20 soldiers in powered armor stepped out, their weapons ready. Their armor was beautiful and terrible, dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Each soldier was twice as strong as any human, protected by personal shields that could stop any bullet. They expected easy prey, a primitive human and a wounded princess. This would take minutes. They were wrong. Knew his salvage yard like he knew his own body. Every pile of junk, every narrow passage, every dangerous piece of equipment. He had spent 10 years walking these paths. He knew where to hide. He knew where to trap. He knew where to kill. The first group of soldiers walked into the maze of rusted ships and broken equipment. They moved confidently, their scanners showing them exactly where was hiding. Let them get close. Then he triggered the first trap. The fuel depot had been empty for years, mostly empty, had spent the last week filling it with a mixture of chemicals he had found around the yard, not explosive by themselves, but together, when exposed to the energy signature of Dominion shields, they became very explosive. The blast killed 6 soldiers instantly. The fire trapped 4 more. Moved before the dust settled. He had a plasma cutter in his hand, a human tool designed for cutting metal, but had modified it using principles he had learned from the princess's ship. It was not quite a weapon, but it could cut through powered armor if he got close enough. He got close enough 3 times. The soldiers could not understand what was happening. Their scanners showed one human, one weak, slow, primitive human, but that human kept appearing and disappearing. He knew every shadow, every hiding spot, every blind angle. He attacked and vanished before they could respond. More soldiers landed, more died. Found an old military mech in the back of his yard. It had been dead for decades, used for spare parts, but he had repaired enough of it to move, to walk, to swing its massive metal arms. He drove it into the second wave of soldiers like a battering ram. The mech lasted 4 minutes before their weapons destroyed it. 4 minutes of chaos. 4 minutes of soldiers screaming and running. Jumped free before it exploded, already moving to his next position. But there were too many of them. He knew that. He had hurt them, killed many of them, but more kept coming. And now they had stopped underestimating him. They moved carefully, covering each other, using their numbers. They pushed him back toward his workshop, toward the princess. Lord Iran had come with the third ship. He was tall and elegant, with the same violet skin as the princess, but eyes that were cold and cruel. He wore armor that was more ornate than his soldiers, decorated with symbols of his noble house. He found her standing in front of the starlight throne, a weapon in her hand. She was still injured. She could barely stand, but she refused to run. Princess, Iran said. His voice was smooth and calm. This chase has been amusing, but it ends now. You will not take my throne, she said. You will not destroy my family. I will do both, and no one will ever know. You died in an accident, a tragic crash on a primitive world. Your human friend will be forgotten, just another dead savage on a savage planet. He raised his weapon. The truck hit him at 40 miles per hour. Had circled around while Iran was talking. He had found his oldest, heaviest truck and driven it straight into the noble lord. The impact sent Iran flying. stepped out of the truck. He was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His clothes were burned and torn, but he was still standing, and in his hands was the weapon he had been building secretly for 3 weeks. It looked crude, ugly, made from human junk and stolen alien parts, half metal pipe, half glowing crystal. Oran stood up. His armor had protected him from the truck. His personal shield shimmered around him. He laughed. A primitive weapon. Against me. My shields can stop anything your pathetic species can create. I know, said. I studied your shields, learned how they work, found their frequency. He raised the weapon. This matches it. He fired. The blast went through Oran's shield like it was not there. It went through his armor. It went through him. The noble lord fell. He did not get up. The remaining soldiers stared. Their commander was dead, killed by a human with an impossible weapon. They ran. Let them go. He did not have the strength to chase them. He barely had the strength to stand. He fell to his knees, the weapon dropping from his hands. A was beside him in seconds. She caught him before he collapsed completely. You impossible man, she whispered. You stupid, impossible man. Did we win? Asked. Yes, we won. Good, he closed his eyes. I'm going to sleep now. Wake me up when something else needs fixing. He passed out in her arms. The journey to Prime took 3 weeks. Spent most of that time recovering from his wounds and learning about the place they were going. The princess taught him about the Ascendant Dominion, about its history, its politics, its people. She warned him about what he would face. They will not accept you, she said. You are human. To them that means you are primitive, inferior. They will try to humiliate you, challenge you, drive you away. Let them try, said. She smiled at that. She had learned to enjoy his confidence. It was not arrogance. He simply did not care what people thought of him. He knew what he was capable of. The opinions of others did not change that. When the Starlight Throne emerged from faster-than-light travel, saw Prime for the first time. It was beautiful. A world of silver towers and floating cities, of gardens that covered entire continents and oceans that glowed with bioluminescent life. The capital city alone was bigger than most countries on Earth. The Eternal Palace was at the center of everything. It rose from the ground like a mountain made of crystal, its spires reaching toward the sky. Inside, the halls were large enough to hold a human city. The ceilings were painted with the history of the Dominion. Servants and nobles filled every corridor. They all stopped and stared when I entered with a human beside her. The court had been told she was dead. They had begun planning her funeral, dividing her possessions, adjusting the line of succession. Her return was a shock, but her companion was a scandal. Humans were known to the Dominion. Primitive creatures from a small planet in an unremarkable part of the galaxy. Not worth conquering, not worth contacting, barely worth acknowledging. The idea that a princess of the royal family would bring one into the sacred halls of the palace was beyond insulting. It was insane. The whisper started immediately. What is that creature doing here? Has she lost her mind? The human must be removed. Perhaps she was injured more badly than we thought. Perhaps her brain was damaged. Heard all of it. He did not care. He walked beside her with his head high, looking at the wonders around him with curiosity rather than fear. The nobles expected him to be intimidated. He was interested instead. The emperor received them in the throne room. He was old even by Dominion standards. His violet skin faded to a pale lavender, but his eyes were sharp. He looked at his granddaughter, then at the human beside her. You return from death, he said, and you bring a companion. This man saved my life, I said. He destroyed my enemies. He repaired my ship when it should have been impossible. He fought an army alone to protect me. I would not be standing here without him. He is human. He is more than that. The emperor studied for a long moment. What do you have to say, human? Shrugged, nice place. The architecture is interesting. You might want to look at the power distribution in the eastern wing, though. I noticed some inefficiency on the way in." The court gasped. Speaking to the emperor without proper respect was punishable by death. Criticizing the palace was unthinkable. The emperor laughed. It was a dry, dusty sound like he had not laughed in years. "Interesting, very interesting." He waved his hand. "The human may stay. Let the court decide if he is worthy." The challenges began that same day. Dominion politics worked on a system of formal duels. Any noble could challenge another's claim, position, or companion. The challenges could be combat, intellect, or craftsmanship. By accepting someone into her household, I had made subject to these rules. The nobles saw an opportunity. They would challenge the human, defeat him easily, humiliate the princess, and weaken her position. The first challenge was combat. Lord was a warrior of the highest rank. He had fought in 100 battles. He was tall and strong, trained since childhood in every form of combat known to the Dominion. The challenge should have been a formality. A single blow would be enough. Fought dirty. He used techniques no Dominion warrior had ever seen. Human techniques, street fighting, wrestling, tricks and traps that violated every rule of honorable combat. Lord expected a duel. He got a brawl. When it was over, the great warrior was lying on the ground, and the human was still standing. The second challenge was intellect. Lady was a scholar of the highest order. She had studied for 3 centuries. She knew mathematics and science and philosophy that humans had not yet discovered. She asked questions designed to expose his ignorance. Answered with questions of his own. He did not know the answers the Dominion had found, but he knew how to think about problems. He approached them from angles Lady had never considered. He found solutions she had never imagined. She could not defeat someone who thought differently than anyone she had ever met. The third challenge was craftsmanship. The Grand Artificer himself issued this challenge. He was the highest-ranked engineer in the Empire, master of technology that had been refined over thousands of years. The challenge was to repair an ancient artifact, a device so complex that even the artificer did not fully understand it. Looked at the artifact for 1 hour. He walked around it, he touched it, he listened to it. Then he began to work. The court watched in silence. The artificer watched with growing disbelief. When finished, the artifact worked better than it had in 3,000 years. He had not just repaired it, he had improved it, and in the process he had discovered its original purpose. It was a medical device designed to heal wounds that no modern technology could treat. "How?" the artificer demanded. "How did you know?" "I don't know what things are supposed to do," said. "So I just figure out what they could do. Sometimes that's better than what they were designed for." The challenges stopped after that. The court had learned a painful lesson. Humans were not primitive. They were different, and different could be dangerous. That night I found on a balcony, looking up at unfamiliar stars. "You've proven yourself," she said. "No one can deny your worth now, but you never had to do any of this. You could have stayed on Earth." He was quiet for a moment. "Your empire needs help," he said finally. "It's old, stuck. It's forgotten how to change, how to grow." He looked at her. "Everything can be fixed, even empires." "Is that what I am to you? A repair project?" "No," he said. "You're the one thing that didn't need fixing. You just needed someone to see it." She moved closer to him. In the light of alien stars, she looked less like a princess and more like a person who had been alone for too long. "I see you too," she said. For the first time since they met, she kissed him. The court would be scandalized. The nobles would be outraged. A princess and a human, it was unthinkable. Neither of them cared. 5 years changed everything. Stood in the great hall of the Eternal Palace, wearing ceremonial robes that cost more than his entire salvage yard back on Earth. Around him, Nobles from 1,000 worlds bowed their heads. The emperor himself placed a crown of woven starlight on his head. Rise, prince consort of the ascendant dominion. Rose beside him, smiled with tears in her eyes. The court cheered. Not all of them meant it, but enough did. Enough had seen what could do. Enough had learned to respect him. The ceremony was just a symbol. The real changes had happened over the 5 years before. It started small, had noticed problems everywhere he looked, inefficiencies in systems, waste in processes, old solutions that had stopped working centuries ago but nobody questioned. He started fixing things. He could not help himself. The first change was the engineering caste. In the Dominion, engineers were servants. Skilled servants, yes, important servants, but servants. They did what they were told. They did not question. They did not innovate. Change that. He created schools where engineers could experiment, where they could ask questions, where they could challenge old assumptions and try new ideas. He called them innovation academies. The nobles thought he was insane. Why would you want servants to think for themselves? The first academy produced 3 inventions that improved ship efficiency by 15%. The second academy found a new way to generate power that the Dominion had never considered. The third academy cured a disease that had killed millions. The nobles stopped complaining. The academy spread across the empire. On every world, engineers and scientists gathered to learn and create. They did not just copy what taught them. They took his methods and made them their own. They combined human creativity with Dominion knowledge. The results were extraordinary. New ships, new weapons, new medical technology, new farming techniques, new everything. The Ascendant Dominion had been stagnant for 3,000 years. It had stopped growing. Now it was growing again. The Empire's enemies noticed. The Dominion had been at war with other civilizations for centuries. Slow wars, with occasional battles and long periods of quiet. The enemies had learned to exploit the Dominion's stagnation. They knew what the Empire could do. They knew its limits. They did not know about. The first battle after the changes was a disaster. For the enemy, their shields, which had protected them for generations, suddenly stopped working. Their tactics, which had countered every Dominion strategy, were useless against new approaches. Their confidence, built over centuries of small victories, shattered. The Dominion won 3 wars in 2 years. Enemies who had threatened the Empire for now begged for peace. But the big changes were not the wars or the technology. The big changes were the people. Had shown the Dominion something it had forgotten, that anyone could make a difference, that new ideas could come from anywhere, that the universe was full of problems waiting to be solved by anyone willing to try. He had established repair guilds on 100 worlds, places where anyone could learn to fix things, machines, buildings, systems, lives. He taught that everything could be improved, everything could be made better. You don't need to be special, he told them. You just need to look at problems like they can be solved, because they can, they always can. The young people of the Dominion listened. They learned. They started questioning. They started creating. For the first time in generations, the future looked different from the past. Found in his workshop late one night. Even in the palace, he had built himself a workshop. Old habits were hard to break. The ceremony was beautiful, she said. You looked very dignified. I looked ridiculous, said. He was already out of the ceremonial robes, wearing his old work clothes. Those clothes weigh more than I do. She laughed. She laughed often now. 5 years with had changed her too. She had learned to relax, to be herself instead of just a princess. Do you ever regret it? She asked. You had a quiet life, peace, solitude, now you have all this. She gestured at the palace around them. Thought about it. He thought about his salvage yard in the Nevada desert, the quiet nights, the simple work, the loneliness he had pretended not to feel. I fix things, he said finally. That's what I do, Back on Earth, I was fixing machines. Here I'm fixing bigger things, systems, people, empires." He looked at her. "It's the same work, just a different scale." "And me, am I something you fixed?" "No," he took her hands. "You're the reason I'm here, the reason any of this matters. You didn't need fixing. You just needed someone to believe in you." She squeezed his hands. "And you, did you need fixing?" Smiled, "Maybe. I was alone for a long time. Thought I preferred it that way. Turns out I was wrong." The great wrong about something. It happens, rarely, but it happens. They stood together in the workshop, surrounded by tools and parts and half-finished projects. Outside, the empire stretched across 1,000 worlds. Billions of people lived their lives, most of them never knowing that everything had changed because one human refused to accept that anything was impossible. Historians would write about for centuries. They would analyze his methods, study his innovations, debate his legacy. Some would call him a genius. Some would call him lucky. Some would say he was just in the right place at the right time. They would all be wrong. Succeeded because he believed something simple. Everything wants to work. Everything wants to be whole. And if you listen carefully, everything will tell you what it needs. He had listened to a broken ship and made it fly again. He had listened to a broken empire and made it grow again. He had listened to a lonely princess and helped her become the ruler she was meant to be. And he had listened to himself, finally, after years of ignoring the truth. He had needed connection, purpose, love. He had found all three in the most unexpected place. "Come to bed," I said. "You can fix the universe again tomorrow." Looked at his workshop, at the projects waiting to be finished, at the problems waiting to be solved. There was always more work to do. But some things were more important than work. "Yeah," he said, "tomorrow." He turned off the lights and followed his wife out of the workshop. Behind them, the tools sat waiting. The machines hummed softly. The universe continued to spin, full of broken things waiting to be fixed. Would get to them eventually. He always did. But tonight, he was exactly where he needed to be.